This week on Hometown Ghost Stories, the Battle of Chickamauga was the second bloodiest engagement of the Civil War, surpassed only by Gettysburg, with more than 34,000 men killed, wounded, or missing over just 2 brutal days. The fighting took place along the winding waters of Chickamauga Creek, its name derived from a Cherokee term often translated as the River of Death. After the violence and unimaginable bloodshed on that ground, it should come as no surprise that the fields, houses, and forests surrounding Chickamauga are believed by many to be haunted. This is Hometown Ghost Stories, Ghosts of the Civil War, the River of Death.
Hometown Ghost Stories contains serious and often distressing events and is not intended for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
September 19th, 1863, Chickamauga Creek, Georgia. Chunks of dirt and rock pelted us in the face as the cannonball ricocheted off the ground in front of us. Instinctively, I shut my eyes and ducked. I felt the heat and violent rush of air as something tore past just above my head, followed by a sickening impact somewhere behind me. I stayed crouched, afraid to look back. When I finally turned, I understood that the same cannonball I'd just escaped had taken off the head of the man behind me. The sun bled into the tree line as it sank, a swollen red coin slipping behind a horizon still hazy with smoke. The air carried a strange tint, as if the light itself had been stained by the day's violence. My ears rang. I sat alone in the brittle grass, unable to calm my pulse. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, his green eyes. I told myself the battle had ended for the night, but my body didn't believe it. Shock made everything feel slow and sharp at once, as if the world had narrowed to the smell of powder and the weight of grief pressing on my chest. I only grew more restless as the sky turned black. There was no moon, but the stars speckled the sky, giving enough light to cast an eerie glow on the motionless, steaming battlefield. My body was exhausted, but my mind was racing. I decided to try and walk it off. I walked into the trees, their branches intertwining overhead, blotting out the starlight. I walked away from the light, from the camping soldiers, away from the death, from the corpses, the blood, into the thick of the trees, into the blackness of the night. I leaned against an oak tree and slumped to the ground. I knew I risked being caught and accused of desertion, even though that wasn't what I was doing. But I felt like if I didn't clear my head, I'd lose it. That very thought triggered the memory of the headless man behind me, flashing without warning through my mind. I squeezed my eyes shut and tried to shake the image away. When I opened them again, I noticed something off in the distance. 2 faint green pinpoints of light, hovering side by side, motionless against the darkness. I narrowed my gaze, trying to make sense of them, but there was no flicker, no lantern flame, no reflection. Just 2 cold, steady glints. They drifted closer, slowly, deliberately, and with every inch they closed, an inexplicable heaviness settled into my stomach. I wanted to step forward, driven by a strange curiosity, but the sensation of dread kept me frozen in place. As the lights approached, the darkness around them seemed to take shape, a face forming where there should have been nothing. Features emerging as if carved out of empty space. Then I understood. The green lights were eyes, and the face, pale, suspended, floating, belonging to the man whose head the cannonball had torn away hours before. His disembodied head moved towards me through the trees, expression blank, those eyes fixed on mine with a calm, unnatural intensity. I stumbled back, unable to breathe as his mouth began to open, wide as though preparing to speak or scream, and a rush of cold air brushed past me. I turned away before I could see more. I ran. Every instinct in me demanded it. I tore through the trees, back toward the campfires, desperate to find another living soul. No one believed me. No one believed that was why I left the camp. They said I was fleeing the battle, that I'd abandoned my post. No explanation, no pleading, no terror in my eyes made any difference. In the morning, the officers already had their story, and I was condemned for desertion. That's why I now stand with this rope around my neck beneath the same oak tree where I rested only hours ago, about to take my final breath. I'm Dave Wilkins, and this is Hometown Ghost Stories, Ghosts of the Civil War, the River of Death. By the late summer of 1863, the momentum of the American Civil War was shifting. The Confederacy had endured a series of devastating losses that rippled across the entire South. At Gettysburg in early July, Robert E. Lee's second invasion of the North collapsed in 3 days of brutal fighting. Thousands of Southern soldiers never returned, and the Army of Northern Virginia limped back toward Richmond, battered and exhausted. Around the same time, Union forces under Ulysses S. Grant captured Vicksburg, Mississippi, a victory that effectively severed the Confederacy in two, giving the Union full control of the Mississippi River. For many Southerners, these twin defeats, Gettysburg in the east, Vicksburg in the west, felt apocalyptic. Supplies were dwindling, manpower was stretched to the breaking, and morale in the Confederate ranks was spiraling downward. The dream of a long, victorious independence began to feel distant. But the Confederacy was not finished. In the Western Theater, Confederate General Braxton Bragg and his Army of Tennessee were determined to reverse the tide. Federal forces had pushed Bragg's army steadily southward over the summer, forcing the Confederate to abandon Chattanooga, a critical supply junction for the Southern War effort. To Washington, Chattanooga was a strategic gem. Whoever held the city controlled major river crossings, rail lines, and the gateway to the Deep South. Losing it would choke the Confederacy's ability to move troops and resources. Keeping it would give the Union unstoppable access toward Atlanta and beyond. As Bragg retreated, Union General William Rosecrans pressed hard. He pursued the Confederates aggressively through the rough and winding countryside of North Georgia, believing Bragg's army was already collapsing. Rosecrans was convinced Bragg posed little threat and that the Confederates were too demoralized to mount a significant attack. He was wrong. By early September, Bragg's forces had quietly received reinforcements from Mississippi and Virginia, including the battle-tested veterans of James Longstreet's corps. For the first time in months, the Confederates held a numerical advantage. Bragg was poised not just to defend the terrain around Chickamauga Creek, but to strike back. And the ground itself was unforgiving. Dense forests, tangled underbrush, ravines, narrow farm roads, and twisting creek beds meant visibility was almost non-existent. Armies maneuvered blindly through a maze of trees. Units became separated, swallowed by wilderness. Commanders struggled to locate their own men, let alone the enemy. It was this confusion, this dark labyrinth of woods and ridgelines, that turned Chickamauga into one of the deadliest encounters of the Civil War. On September 19, 1863, as the morning fog lifted over the Georgia fields and forests, two massive armies collided. Union and Confederate lines smashed into each other in a series of chaotic engagements, soldiers firing at shapes they could barely see through the trees. The Battle of Chickamauga had begun. The first day was immediate confusion. The dense woods swallowed entire regiments. The officers struggled to control men who could barely see 20 yards in any direction. Gunpowder drifted like a low fog. Musket volleys cracked from unseen positions, and soldiers fired at shadows, unsure whether they were aiming at friend or foe. Bullets snapped through the branches overhead, showering splinters across faces and uniforms as the fighting surged back and forth through the timber. The wounded had nowhere to go. Many were stranded between the lines, unable to crawl to safety as the tide of combat passed over them again and again. Some lay in the tall grass for hours, begging for water, calling for help that never came. Bayonet fights broke out in thickets where visibility disappeared entirely, and men fought at arm's length. Muskets swung like clubs, bodies tangled in the brush, and smoke burned the lungs and eyes of anyone caught in it. The first day of fighting ended in a draw, but when darkness fell, the battlefield didn't grow silent. Union and Confederate soldiers bivouacked only yards apart, separated by nothing but fallen timber and the wounded lying between them. Lantern light flickered through the trees as the forest filled with groans, whispered prayers, and breaking voices of men who would never leave those woods alive. One Confederate officer howled in pain so relentlessly that a pair of Union soldiers could no longer bear it. Defying orders, they crawled across the line in darkness, lifted the man onto a coat, and quietly carried him back to a field medic. A rare moment of humanity on a night otherwise consumed by suffering. By the end of September 20th, exhaustion and confusion finally gave way to a decisive collapse in the Union line. In the late morning, General Rosecrans received a garbled report that a section of his line was faltering and needed immediate reinforcement. The supposed gap didn't actually exist, but in the smoke and disarray of the woods, Rosecrans trusted the report. He pulled a division off the line to fill the imaginary breach, and in doing so, created a real one. It was a fatal decision. James Longstreet, commanding a massive Confederate column fresh from Virginia, immediately recognized the gap as it opened. With near-perfect timing, he hurled his troops directly into the unguarded space at the Brotherton Farm, punching straight through the Federal line and splitting Rosecrans' army in two. The breakthrough sent thousands of Union troops, including Rosecrans himself, retreating towards Chattanooga in confusion, certain the entire field had been lost. What remained of the Federal force gathered on a ridge near Snodgrass House, where General George Thomas rallied the shattered fragments of the army and held off repeated assaults until nightfall. His stubborn stand prevented a complete disaster and earned him the name the Rock of Chickamauga. But the field he defended was left in ruins. Nearly 34,000 men were killed, wounded, or missing, making Chickamauga second only to Gettysburg in overall casualties. The woods and fields were littered with bodies for days, and improvised field hospitals overflowed with the wounded who had survived the night only to face amputation, infection, or death. Local families woke to find their homes turned into operating tables, their porches stained with blood, and their wells fouled by the runoff of battle. When the armies finally withdrew, North Georgia was left with more than broken fences and abandoned equipment. The land had absorbed unimaginable suffering. A wilderness of shattered trees, mass graves, and untold final breaths. And for many who have walked those woods since, Chickamauga has never been entirely quiet. Some believe that the battlefield did not fully surrender its dead. When Longstreet's men charged through the unexpected gap in the Union line, the fighting surged directly towards the Brotherton Farm. The orderly movements of the battle had collapsed into chaos, and soldiers from both sides spilled through the trees, past the fences, past the fields, and right up to the Brotherton house. In a matter of minutes, a quiet family homestead became the focal point of a breakthrough that shattered Rosecrans' army and sent thousands of Union troops fleeing toward Chattanooga. What remained was something otherworldly. For those who lived here after the war, the house never felt like an ordinary cabin again. The Brotherton family rebuilt and tried to move forward, but the land around them had absorbed something heavy. A moment in time when hundreds of men fought and fell within sight of their front porch. The house was later restored as part of the National Military Park, but even in its reconstructed form, the site feels strangely unsettled. Locals and rangers have passed along stories, not of marching soldiers or phantom bugles, but of something much stranger and much harder to explain. Near dusk, a figure sometimes appears on the porch. Not a drifting mist or a pale silhouette, but a man with a purpose, walking from window to window, cupping his hands against the glass as if looking for someone inside. Witnesses say he moves quickly, impatiently, pacing from one end of the porch to the other before darting around the corner and vanishing without a sound. No footsteps, no fading, just a sudden absence, like someone who stepped behind a wall that isn't there anymore. He's been spotted by visitors and park rangers alike. Some have even alerted authorities to his presence, mistaking him for an intruder, just for the authorities to arrive and find nobody there. Over the years, visitors, ghost tour writers, and even a few park rangers have talked about a lady in white seen wandering the battlefield. In most versions, she wears a long white or bridal-style dress that drifts through the fields and along the ridges as if she's searching for someone. Legend says her husband or fiancé was killed there, and that she spent the days after the battle walking the blood-soaked ground with a lantern, trying to find his body among the thousands of dead. Some accounts claim that after her own death, people began to see a glowing white figure, or a bobbing lantern light moving through the dark field in September and October, especially near Snodgrass Hill and other heavy fighting areas. There's no historical record that proves who she was, or even that she existed at all. But the story keeps coming back. Modern visitors still report a pale woman or a white shape crossing the field and then fading into the trees. There are countless ghost stories linked to Chickamauga, but none are more unsettling than the ones involving the glowing green eyes moving through the trees after dark. Over the decades, visitors and investigators have claimed to see a pale face or pair of green pinpoints drifting above the ground, just beyond lantern light or flashlights, as if watching from a distance. Some insist the eyes belong to a fallen soldier whose body was never retrieved. Others say the apparition dates back to a night when a cannon blast took off a man's head clean from his shoulders and left a trauma so profound that the land never forgot it. No names are attached to the legend. Chickamauga has more than enough unclaimed dead to make the ghost anonymous. The accounts don't follow a single script. Sometimes it's just the lights, unmoving and silent. Other times, a face seems to form around them, as if emerging from the dark, just long enough to be recognized before fading back into the trees. People who have tried to approach say a crushing sense of dread stops them before they take 3 steps. No screams, no chase, just the feeling that something not entirely human, not entirely gone, is aware of you in a place where thousands begged for mourning and never saw it. Green Eyes isn't documented in wartime records, and no battlefield surgeons wrote about strange lights floating over the dead, but the legend lives on. Chickamauga is quiet now, but the land never truly healed. History tells us how the battle ended. The stories remind us that not everyone who fell here really left.
What is going on, folks, and welcome into Hometown Ghost Stories, episode number 184, revisiting some more ghosts of the Civil War. I'm Jesse Wilkins. I'm joined by Rob Coakley. Hello, Rob.
I hope that if I die and become a floating head ghost, my beautiful blue eyes will be what everyone describes.
I would say so. And hopefully they'll be floating around the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the ocean.
Also joined by Dave. Hello, Dave.
Hello. Hopefully sooner rather than later, Rob.
Wow, Dave, that was so good.
Uncalled for.
It was uncalled for. I apologize.
Yeah, you should
What's going on,
probably-
everybody? Hanging out in live chat, we had $20 in Super Chat from Another Vice. So thank you so much, Another Vice, for the generosity. It says, popped in to say hi. We'll have to catch up later. That's okay, and we appreciate the generosity. And then we just, right now, got 10 gifted memberships on YouTube from Whisper, an absolute legendary member of the Hometown Ghost Stories family, and we appreciate that so much. So thank you so much. If you received a gifted membership, make sure you say thank you. We had a bit of an interesting week, didn't we?
We had a hell of a week. It's just when we thought we were done and we're able to rest for a little bit, other great things pop up. So it's been a good week. We went and filmed an episode of Talk is Jericho at the Lizzie Borden house, which was really cool. And then we went to Chris Jericho's concert that night, and Jesse and I filmed some of that. So that was pretty cool as well.
That was cool. So keep an eye out for that. I mean, I don't think it'll be out anytime soon, but we were live on location. Huge shout out to everybody at the Lizzie Borden house for letting us come through and film there. Had a camera crew there. Shout out to Kevin Tachi and the gang for coming through and filming for us. And it was jam-packed, efficient, got it done. Hung out in the Lizzie Borden house. Chris Jericho did the tour. I think, Dave, you joined him on the tour, right?
Yeah. It was Chris, myself, and Chris's guitarist.
Yes.
Yeah, Charlie.
Cool. Charlie was the man. So a lot of fun. Keep an eye out for that episode. It won't be on our feed. That will be on Jericho's feed. So if you're a fan of Talk is Jericho, if you came over from Talk is Jericho, get ready for another one. I know we just dropped an episode like a month ago with Jericho, but the opportunity was here. He was in the States, so we seized it and did that. And me and Rob were professional cameramen that night. That was pretty cool. So we were given one rule, which was don't go on stage from the venue. So as I do, I immediately went on stage with the big camera and I was like, I'm here to film and I'm not doing it from the crowd. So I'm going to go ahead and knock this up, but it was cool. But huge shout out to Chris and thanks again to the staff at the Lizzie Borden House. They were amazing as they always are.
Yes.
Back in Georgia for an episode. It's been a little bit since we covered Georgia.
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember the last time we covered Georgia. We've been down there a couple times. We've done Savannah. We've done some other things. But continuing on with the Ghost of the Civil War project that we've been kind of working on here and there. We did Gettysburg, we did Antietam, we did Shiloh, and now we have
We's doing a lot of lifting there. I haven't done one Civil War episode.
Yeah, we just did a Civil War episode recently too.
No, we didn't. Shiloh was the last one. That was a while ago, wasn't it?
I thought I covered something that had something to do with the Civil War. Maybe I'm forgetting things.
That was Shiloh.
Mm-hmm. Can't think of good Shiloh jokes, so we'll just move on.
Yeah, but that's okay. Yeah, you did Shiloh and you had usurped my...
Oh no, I covered on my last episode. I covered a Civil War camp, so it wasn't necessarily a Civil War battle, but covered some of the Civil War. Or was that Revolutionary? No, it was civil.
Okay.
Yeah, Maryland.
For those of you still joining us, we're going to get into this.
Yes. So this was the Battle of Chickamauga, which was after Gettysburg, after Vicksburg. And a lot of people kind of look back at the Civil War and they say Gettysburg really sort of felt like it was the nail in the coffin for the South. And it wasn't. And this battle was proof of that because after Gettysburg, the Union forces chased the Confederate forces back down to the South, back into Virginia. And they had the Battle of Vicksburg. And then further south here to Chattanooga. I was corrected on my pronunciation. I guess it's not supposed to be Chattanooga.
No, it's Chattanooga.
Chattanooga. So, and then from there down to Chickamauga, which is in northern Georgia. And this was the Chickamauga is apparently a Cherokee word for the River of Death, which is what I titled the episode because I thought it was a really cool sounding name for an episode. Now there's some pushback on whether or not it's really translates to that. I've heard River of Blood also. Jesse and I were kind of going back and forth on which one to call it. But historians...
To be fair, that was my first source. So I was watching a little documentary from National Geographic, and they had said it would that was the first thing they said. It was like, it translates to the River of Blood. Meanwhile, I'm literally making the thumbnail for the episode. I was like, uh-oh, hang on a second. But I guess it could be both.
Yeah, so they say the translations are... There's no direct translation for whatever reason. This language is lost in translation, I guess. And it either means River of Death or River of Blood or neither. There are some historians say it probably doesn't mean either, but
it's just River of Water, something boring like that.
River of Water. Yeah, who knows? But River of Death is what it's most commonly known as. And there's some folklore behind that goes back beyond the Civil War, but further back in history. And there's no documentation on it. There's no way to know whether or not it's really true, but it's believable. And it was the origin of how this river allegedly became known as the River of Death. And according to legend, Chickamauga Creek was once the scene of a very violent conflict between rival Native American tribes. And it was either a Cherokee factional dispute or it was a clash with the Muskogee warriors, depending on who's telling the story. So the creek's bends and ravines supposedly became a burial place for many who fell during this bloody battle, and the land was said to have absorbed all of the grief and the fear of the dead. So there was this big battle, bunch of dead Native Americans from the battle, and that's how it got the name River of Death, because when the people came to collect the bodies, they said that the river was just red with blood. Yeah. And bodies were everywhere.
That's interesting because I would have thought just from, the nickname that it got in the battle that was close by that it would have gotten that name from the battle, like the Civil War battle. But that
no, that's kind of what I thought too. And then, but I think at the time it was called Chickamauga. They called it the Battle of Chickamauga at the time, so it wouldn't have made it. Almost begs the question, right?
Right.
So. That's not the case, but this was the second bloodiest battle of the Civil War, second only to Gettysburg, and it was 34,000 total casualties.
there were 16,170 killed, wounded, missing or captured on the Union side, and then the Confederate side suffered more than 2,000 more. There was 18,454 killed, wounded, missing or captured on the Confederate side, and the Confederates won the battle, which is kind of crazy.
The interesting part about that to me is, as much as I've studied the Civil War throughout school and everything else, it's not one of the battles that gets ever really brought up. I mean, there's so many other things about the Civil War that you hear about. Obviously, Gettysburg is number one, like easily, but
yeah, Antietam, like
Antietam,
these battles before
Vicksburg,
yep, Appomattox,
Sherman's march to the sea, like you
Yeah.
just all of that stuff is what you hear. And the second bloodiest battle, I guess it shows you that second place isn't first place, but like it just, you don't hear about Chickamauga as much as you hear about anything, like all these other things that it feels like you should.
No, and I think it's because history looks back and says that Gettysburg sort of was like the main pivot, because the South had been winning up to that point, and then they took that crushing defeat at Gettysburg, and then they started getting chased back to the South. But when the Southern Army, when Braxton Bragg's army went back into Georgia, he rallied Longstreet's troops secretly. No one knew. And then when Rosecrans came into Georgia, thinking he was going to just basically just chase this army back into the South and beat them, they were completely blindsided, and it was ended up being a huge loss for them and chased them back up into Tennessee. So it was
and no one wants to go to Tennessee.
It was a bigger deal than history gives it credit for, I think. But yeah, number 2 only to Gettysburg, and Gettysburg was number 1 by a lot. It was 51,000 casualties on both sides, which is a pretty big jump.
It's a lot longer too.
I think it was 1 day longer.
That's 33% longer, Dave.
Yeah, in terms of a battle that was 2 days, it actually is a lot longer. But yeah, no, I wasn't saying it wasn't, but I was saying
exactly.
it was longer. So, and then Antietam is sometimes talked about as the bloodiest battle because it's the bloodiest single day battle, and that was the 23,000 killed, but it was just 1 day. Very fast battle, a lot of death. So those are kind of like the 3 bloodiest battles of the Civil War. And now we've covered all of them. Not every battle, but all the big ones. No, I mean all 3 of the bloodiest. Yeah.
We're gonna have to invent some battles for the Civil War. So stay tuned for those.
We're just gonna have to investigate next. There's still plenty of other battles in haunted battlefields to cover as well. So the Ghost of the Civil War miniseries is far from over. But as far as this battle goes, this one was a pretty brutal one, and it was interesting the way that they lost it, the Union, because they had the numbers and they had fewer casualties, like I mentioned, but they still lost, and they lost because of a pretty crucial screw up, and that was on day 2. But day 1 actually ended in a strategic draw. They fought all day, and basically at the end of the day, the positions have been the same strategically, and they lost a pretty close amount of troops on both sides, and then they stopped for the night, which I also find interesting. Back in the Civil War, Revolutionary War, they'd battle during the day, then nighttime would come, and they just kind of set up camp next to each other and camp out, and then politely wait until the sun comes up to re-engage. So I don't know. I feel like that wouldn't, if there was a war nowadays, is night, day, whatever.
Well, you can see things at night now, like you have all these new vision things to figure out where everybody is and just continue fighting, and tracer rounds and all kinds of stuff. So, but we do know that you cannot end a war in a tie, and that you have to go into overtime for day 2. So it's nice to see that still rings true.
Yeah, that's right. So day 2 is when they started fighting again, and this is when Rosecrans made that mistake that he got a report that there was a gap in his line. Now, I don't know what he could do in this situation other than just take the officer at his word for it, because you can't see it because you're only one person in one place,
right?
And it turns out to be a bogus information, but he then sends troops to this gap that doesn't exist, and it opens up another gap, and Longstreet took complete advantage of that. And
How does
charged
your
right through.
information that
Do you think
bad?
it was like a? Do you think it was like an inside job?
no, it probably was just
Where
the
he purposely
confusion of
gave him bad
battle.
information?
I mean, it could have been, because this is one of those situations where it's, more likely, I think, in this war than other wars for people to switch sides, because it's the same country, right? A lot of these people probably knew each other. A lot of the generals and officers probably knew each other from going to West Point together. So, and it was the same before the Civil War. It was the same army, right? So there's probably a lot of, friends on both sides. So I guess it could have been, but I think it's more likely that it was just misinformation and the confusion and the heat of battle. So that happened. And then there was one funny quote from this battle where the Rosecrans and his faction start retreating, and one of the officers comes up to Braxton Bragg, the general of the Confederates, and he goes, "Sir, they're retreating." And Braxton Bragg, who was kind of just a miserable old grumpy guy, looks at him and goes, "Huh?"
So he looked it.
Yeah, he was just
Miserable old shit.
just this old curmudgeon. He looks at the officer who was happy. He's like, "Son, do you know what a retreat looks like?" And the officer goes, "Well, I ought to. I've been with you the entire war."
Absolute burn.
So, but the officer was actually wrong, because it was only like a half retreat, because you had General George Thomas, who stood his ground, and he became known as the Rock of Chickamauga, because he just wasn't going to retreat, and he fought, and eventually they did get pushed back. But that was the end of that, and that battle was a loss for the Union.
The Rock of Chickamauga. It's a pretty cool nickname.
Not bad. It is
A little
pretty
too
cool.
long. A little too long.
They could have shortened it like Chickarockcha, but it doesn't really flow that well.
Oh,
I'm sure they floated it out there and they're like,
You usually don't float rocks.
Unless they're in
unless
the
it's a
river.
witch.
I would, like, can you call me the Rock of the River of Death? That's a much cooler name.
Rock of the River. Yeah, that's pretty good.
It is. But as I said, this was a Confederate victory, and it pushed the Union forces back to Tennessee. 34,000 total casualties on both sides, and absolutely brutal, because this ends up not being the slam dunk finish that the Union thought, and then ended up being almost another turning point. But really, the Union forces ended up just pushing right back down into Georgia, and it ended up in a Confederate defeat, as we know. But after the kind of funny fact, after the surrender at Appomattox, the fighting didn't stop, because a lot of the smaller factions of the Confederate Army, they didn't know that they surrendered. It was about a few weeks before a lot of these smaller armies got word that they actually did surrender. So there was a lot of small fighting that still, or a lot of small battles that still went on after, and the Confederates won a couple of them. Like, imagine losing a battle after you won the war.
Yeah,
That's tricky. The same thing happened in like World War II. There were Japanese soldiers, because a lot of them were just kind of like in the jungles, and a lot of them, they were obviously like, how are you going to find out that the war was over? So they never knew the war was over. So they stayed in the jungle. Some of them stayed up for like another 30 years just waiting.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
that is crazy.
That was common for a lot of wars back then. They just, because of everything you just said, like, you just can't get that information to everybody fast enough back then. So
Right.
Yeah, it's not the Hunger Games. They're not just announcing that the war is over from the sky. Like how are you supposed to know if no one comes to tell you?
Back then, yeah. Today it would be different, but there wasn't even just people who hadn't heard yet. There were smaller armies and smaller generals that were like, "I don't believe it. I don't believe Lee surrendered," and they held out until they got firm confirmation. But yeah, it didn't really. Yark 64 says the Civil War really didn't end.
I think we can probably verify that it did.
Yeah.
yeah, there's confirmation that the Civil War did end.
Yep. But that brings us to the hauntings, and this has some run-of-the-mill hauntings, some typical that you hear all the time, and then it has some pretty unique ones. And
We got our first lady in white.
We got our first ever lady in white. Well, while we're on her, we could talk about her. She was the local legend. and it's said to be a pale woman in a long dress moving quietly along the old battlefield paths. And it's believed that she is the ghost of a fallen soldier, and that she was looking for the body in the aftermath of the battle. Which
Ghost of the wife of a fallen soldier?
What did I say?
Just the ghost of a fallen soldier.
The ghost of the wife of a fallen soldier, yes.
Just before they come for you in the comments, I wanted to clarify.
Much appreciated. The ghost of the wife of a fallen soldier who is going through what seems like it is a residual haunt of her probably experiencing the worst day of her life.
Right.
That's tough. Yeah, for sure. So the other ghost that we talked about was at the Brotherton house. So this was the house where when Rosecrans mistakenly created the gap in the Union line and Longstreet's troops charged through, it actually pushed the fighting right onto this farm at the Brotherton house. And there was a whole bunch of violence and death that happened and right at the foot of the front steps of this very small house. Now, the house that's there now isn't the original house. It was like a reconstructed version of it, but it's believed that it's still haunted. So you can tear the house down and build a new one, but it's not going to solve the hauntings. Not always.
Time again.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is haunted by this. It's believed to be just one Union soldier ghost that kind of walks up and he's looking into the windows and people see him walking around the house almost as if he's trying to get in. And it's believed that this is the haunting of a ghost who is trying to... I thought you were just going to leave it there. This
I
is
did
the haunting of a ghost. Like, oh, really? That's right. Sorry, carry on. The idea is that the ghost is going through the motions of a soldier trying to check to see if it was a field hospital, which it was.
Yeah, but this is actually like we've had a bunch of creepy hauntings, but a ghost actually like peering into your windows.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Yeah.
Creepy. Kind of want that. Depends on the setting.
I don't think I want that.
I mean, if we're doing a ghost investigation, that'd be great. It would be frightening. It would be frightening.
You don't know what to do at that point. Do you stay in the house? Do you run out?
Yeah, that's tricky. Well, if the ghost can't get in, I think you stay in the house, right?
You don't know if he can't get in. He's casing the place out.
True. Ghost is just trying to rob the place. And then one I didn't talk about in the video was Snodgrass Hill. And this was the site of George Thomas's defensive stand where the Union troops held off repeated Confederate assaults and prevented total collapse of the army for a little while. Snodgrass sounds like an insult that would be used like 1950s playgrounds.
Yeah.
What, have you been eating Snodgrass?
Maybe. Or old school British insult. You're behaving like a Snodgrass.
I'm not a Snodgrass. You're a Snodgrass. It tastes like Snodgrass.
While I'm doing this silly accent, I did mention earlier that that rocks can float. And I wanted to clarify that I know that only small rocks can float. Yes, very good. Just wanted to clear that up. It's an important distinction. So the area is reported phantom gunfire, distant marching, and voices calling orders, especially on cool nights when sound carries strangely through the pines. So this is more of your run-of-the-mill Civil War hauntings, but that's not to discount them, because this is all stone tape theory stuff, things that kind of get, energy that gets stored naturally. I'm not going to rehash the stone tape theory review.
Please do. I don't know what this theory is.
Well, you never know if there's new listeners and they've never heard of the stone tape theory, because it's I think it's a pretty compelling theory as far as ghost theories go. But you end up with phantom gunshots, phantom orders being called out, basically stuff that happened from the battle that basically just is residual and stays with the land in that area. So other visitors describe mysterious lights moving through the woods as if lanterns are traveling along old troop or lines or aid stations. And also there are stories of shadowy soldier figures appearing briefly near the ridges or on the tree line. So all of these sound like residual haunts from the battle, and that makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, pretty similar to a lot of the hauntings at Gettysburg.
Snodgrass sounds like something a Civil War field doctor would tell you to chew on to get better.
Oh yeah, chew on. Yeah, I was about to say it does sound like something they would eat.
Yeah, just
We were forced to eat snodgrass for 40 days straight.
doctor, my arm's missing. Chew on this snodgrass, it'll grow back real quick.
Right. The most interesting ghost, however, is this is the one that really sold me on this location, and this is the ghost of Old Green Eyes. And the story is that during the battle, there was a cannon shot fired, and it took the head clean off the shoulders of a soldier on the Confederate side. And his haunting is reported as a pair of glowing green eyes that drift through the woods at night. And sometimes they take on a faint shape of a disembodied head that bobs along through the night in the woods. And this was different because you always hear about the headless ghosts, but you never hear about the head of the ghost, right? I can't think of a single instance of the haunting where the haunting is just a floating head missing the body.
That's true.
No, I don't think we've got that. We've got some torso. We've got some legs. We've got people without legs.
Mm-hmm.
We even had a floating pair of hands once, just the hands. Poured milk on a lady. True. I say true story, but that's one of the hauntings that can't remember the place. The Black Monk of Pontefract.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
30
That's
East
fun one.
Drive.
Yeah, 30. It's one of those ones like, why do we remember the address? But I think we called the episode 30 East Drive or something.
But that's what everyone refers to that house
Yeah,
as. That's
yeah,
the only
yeah.
reason why I know it.
Yeah. So reportedly the story is that fellow soldiers buried the Green Eyes soldier without his destroyed body. So they just buried his head. So now his spirit roams around the battlefield searching for his body. Can't find it because it's buried. And others believe that he wasn't a slain soldier, but the beastly being who haunted the area long before the war. So the most common theory is that it's the head of the soldier who had his head blown off. And the more curious theory is that people believe that it's just a disembodied head that isn't associated with the Civil War whatsoever and something evil that dates back much further in history.
Well, the good news is I know this will never happen to me.
Why is that, Rob? Oh, because you'll catch the cannonball.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an impossible haunting for me particularly to ever have happen. So I'm glad I am marked safe from cannonball fire.
Yeah, and that's really what everyone was mainly concerned with was whether or not you would be safe. So sightings emphasize a feeling of dread and watchfulness, not aggression, as if the ghost is observing from the darkness rather than confronting, which I feel like is conflicting if you're going to go with the latter theory, which is if it's like an old evil spirit, but it's not aggressive. I guess it could be evil and not aggressive, but
Just looming around angrily with his green eyes.
What if, and hear me out, it is the old evil spirit. However, he was just doing his little evil spirit stuff, and this battle comes upon where he lives, and he's just standing there like, WTF, and the spirit gets his head taken off by a cannonball.
Well, we don't like to dismiss any theory, but we will dismiss that one.
We don't know. Can't prove me wrong.
it could happen.
Or he possessed one of the soldiers, and as soon as he did, he lost his head with the cannonball. He's like, shit.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I should have done that. Whoa.
Yeah. So that was the green-eyed ghost, and that is a pretty good one. I like that one. But there's one other one, and this is this is actually a headless horseman, and this is another ghost that haunts this battlefield. And sources on this ghost story vary, but this regular visitor is allegedly the ghost of Lieutenant Colonel Julius Garsachet. So, interestingly enough, is there's a disembodied head that floats around, and there's a headless horseman ghost that haunts this battlefield.
Oh,
and it ain't
team up.
It ain't the same guy. So I thought that was pretty weird. But also, it's weird that they determined that it's not the same guy, and not that the headless horseman
and his head are both haunting the same area because they say
Yeah.
that we don't know who the head belongs to. Maybe it's Julius.
Yeah,
But-
you have a head and a headless body, but
Yeah.
Just once, I want a headless horseman to be a headless centaur.
I'd just like to think that hopefully one day they find each other and it's true love and they have and they are complete.
Yeah. They meet and they say, well, you're not my head. And the head says, well, you're not my body. And they say, but you know what? Maybe we can make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And
Was
that's what
that-
happens.
That was touching.
Yeah. If you can't be with the one you love, then love the one you got. As a wise
Andrew says
man
match
once
made in
said.
heaven. Might be a match made in hell, but we don't know. Could be a little demonic head floating around. Maybe they tried. He's like, whoa, this guy's got some terrible thoughts.
Yeah. Dana says, you complete me. That is good. So yeah, Lieutenant Colonel Julius Garsache, and he was a well-received soldier who met his fate with a cannonball during battle. A lot of similarities here.
These guys are terrible at catching cannonballs.
This is where it gets gruesome. It actually gets more gruesome than him losing his head with a cannonball. A stampede of horses trotted by, squashing the officer's head and carrying it with him for several yards. Soldiers discovered this headless trunk after the incident, and visitors report seeing a mysterious headless figure on horseback galloping through the woods at night. Interestingly, however, Lieutenant Colonel Garsache was killed during the Battle of Stones River near Murfreesboro, not Chickamauga. So this ghost, possibly because he doesn't have a head, is lost.
Terrible sense of direction. Can't see where he's going.
Right. Now he's at the wrong battlefield.
What's your
And-
excuse?
My excuse? I don't have a horse. I don't know.
Lack of civil wars.
Lack of so few civil wars. But that is weird. I guess Murfreesboro is not too far from Chickamauga, I guess, from what I understand. I don't know. Take it from me. I don't know.
Don't take it from him. Look into it yourself.
Maybe Steph here can confirm. I know she's from that area. But yeah. So that's the Battle of Chickamauga, and that is the ghosts of the Battle of Chickamauga. This was a lot of people kind of group Chickamauga and Chattanooga together because they happened so fast, kind of like a 1-2 punch. But those are two separate battles, so I'll keep them separate.
They are. I actually panicked in chat. I was like, oh my God, did we pronounce it so wrong? I think it was Steph who was like, it's pronounced whatever the other one is. What is
Chattanooga.
it? Chattanooga. And I had to look it up. I was like, because I'm pretty sure Chattanooga is Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Tennessee
okay.
and Georgia border each other.
I was looking at this word. I'm like, Chickamauga. Like, there's no way that's pronounced Chattanooga. But I'm aware that they're not the same thing. I had a moment of panic. You got to look into these things. Let me take a brief moment. This was kind of unexpected. So this energy drink here, Motion, maybe, I don't know, it's got a thing over the O. They sent us a whole case for the show. And I didn't give you any, Dave, but I gave one to Rob.
You
and,
did.
Thanks.
Yeah, I have more, but it was kind of cool. I was on The Car Doctor, which is a show that I produce on WATD on the weekends, and he had mentioned that he got a shipment, and he's like, Jesse, you have a big show, you know, like maybe they'll send you some. I was like, yeah, it must be nice. The next day on my doorstep, they had sent me a whole thing. I was like, that was fast. And how'd you know my address? And I will not share how they found my address, but they did. And
Well, you can share how they found it. Just don't share your address.
no, because then it's going to find out how easily they found it. Anyways, but regardless, it was cool. It was cool. So it's Christian Vieira and his dad Tony. It's a good energy drink.
You better
So
give me some, or I'm going to start pushing Celsius.
Don't dare. Not on this show. Not on this show. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a tasty one. It does taste a little like Celsius, but way better. So delicious.
You know, I've been wondering why we don't get many sponsorship opportunities, and I think I figured it out. Unrelated.
Yeah, so it was cool. But yeah, good stuff. And I don't think it's in stores yet, but when it is, we'll keep you posted.
What's that learn a new language company we love? Duolingo, right? Strongly recommend them over anyone else, right?
I'm closing in on a 1,000-day streak on Duolingo. Anyways. Yeah, that's cool. Nice job on that episode. That was pretty thorough. Yeah, thanks. It was a fun one.
I want to go back to the green-eyed ghost real quick, because when I was looking into the green-eyed ghost, I know you said that you saw the demon thing and the ghost portion. Did you also come across anything where they believe it might be cryptid? Because I saw a couple of things, but there was very unclear of what kind of cryptid.
I guess how do you classify something as a cryptid, right? Like, what separates a ghost from a cryptid? What is the distinction? What's the criteria, I guess?
I'm not a cryptid. I don't know. I saw people.
No one was accusing you of being a cryptid. That's definitely not what I asked. I was just saying, what is the criteria for a cryptid, and how is it distinct from a ghost? And is a ghost a cryptid? I don't know.
I would assume the distinction would be, in my opinion, that a ghost is like a spirit and a cryptid is
physical.
I
guess. Yeah. So something that could be natural. So a cryptid would be something that there could be a natural explanation for, whereas a ghost would be completely supernatural. Like a Sasquatch wouldn't be supernatural. It would just be an undiscovered species, I guess. I guess if it's a floating head, it couldn't be something natural. So it would have to be supernatural. So I'd say probably not a cryptid.
I hope that we do get to naturally floating heads in the future.
If you don't catch that cannonball, you'll be a naturally floating head.
That's true. It's the other thing about getting hit with a cannonball in the head. Like, I don't think your head just detaches from your body. I think it turns into soup.
For a brief, I guess you're right. True. But if it does stay intact, there'd be at least a brief amount of time where it would be a floating head.
Yeah, it's not Ghost Ship, right? Like, you don't have that situation. You're getting a clean cut. You're getting the worst thing of all time. Although it's probably quick.
Missed. You will be missed.
You will definitely be missed.
Yeah.
And then your head can go into the river, and it can be just the river of death soup, I guess.
Yeah. It would be gross. Rivers must have been real gross. I was thinking about the brutal.
What it take? Rivers are just gross.
No, I mean, I guess let me clarify that. The rivers where battles like this must have been real gross for a real long time after, with all the bodies and blood floating in them. But I was just thinking about the sheer numbers of these.
Yeah. Not to mention the disgusting fish.
Of these battles during the Civil War, and collectively all together, there must have been almost no young men left in the United States around this time after the Civil War.
That's why we went extinct for a little while.
Yeah. But it's just crazy. 34,000 here, 51,000 in Gettysburg. I know that's not all dead. That's a lot of that is injured too. But injured was pretty much a death sentence in a lot of these cases. And just battle after battle. It must have been because the population of the U.S. was so small compared to what it is now back then. And just those numbers were so just crazy. Must have just really rocked the nation.
I think it was a big deal. I think so.
I keep going back to the beginning of the Civil War and just how crazy it was that people were just going to the first battle and setting up picnics.
Oh, man.
That still blows. Of all the things that happened in the Civil War that are crazy and terrifying and the hauntings and everything, for some reason, when I think of the Civil War, that is what I think of. I think of how people were like, "Hey, Jenny, let's get our wine together and some fruit, and let's go sit up a picnic table and watch a war."
Yeah. Especially I don't know. It's like those are bullets, they're not shooting exactly straight. This isn't modern weapons. Even so, all the more reason not to be there. Cannonballs are flying, shrapnel. I'm sure civilians got hit all the time. We heard stories of, cannonballs going through windows and houses and stuff like that, and people getting killed on the sidelines. Basically, it's dude, get out of there.
Yeah. I do. Yeah. I'm guessing it was just ignorance, right? And people just not realizing. I don't know how you don't realize it, but I don't know. Maybe they because there were smaller scale wars before the Civil War, so maybe people were used to kind of just watching these battles that weren't as big a deal as some of these massive like the Civil War was a whole different level. No war prior on U.S. soil was even close, including the Revolutionary War, was even close to the scale of death that the Civil War saw. And we talked about it on prior Civil War episodes. A lot of it was because they still do this old school style of two armies marching up, meeting each other and taking turns shooting. And they're not using the old school muskets like the Revolutionary War and the War of 1812. They're using repeaters and, canister shot and things like that. It's just like, this is not the kind of war you fight with those kind of weapons. It's why there's 50,000 dead bodies in one battle.
Right. Actually, Doug brings up good points. Says, what did you expect? They didn't have TV back then. Like, yeah,
that's true.
There you go.
Yeah, but even that, Dave, just agreeing to be like, all right, let's line up and just start shooting.
I know.
No, absolutely.
You can't convince me that there's a more terrifying style of warfare than marching up to another army and just taking turns shooting at each other. It's the scariest kind. Just hoping you don't get shot.
They're all pretty scary.
But no, that's like to be like on the field and knowing it's like, oh no, it's their turn.
Yeah.
That's terrible. Yeah.
We did in basic training, we did a war simulation where it was an obstacle course, and you had to run through this obstacle course and go under you had to army crawl under barbed wire. And the whole time they're shooting real guns overhead, up in I don't know, 15 feet in the sky or something. And even though that's fake, it was still quite terrifying. So I would like to push back a little bit.
Yeah, it's not like war has got much less terrifying, I would assume. Yeah.
No,
Doug,
and
Doug has seen combat. He left this comment, says, Dave, you've never had enemy artillery firing on you before, have you?
No, and to be fair, my opinion's coming from a position of complete ignorance, having never served anywhere ever. I just imagine all of the different styles of warfare, and to me, that one seems the most terrifying. Just I don't know, what the fuck do I know?
Yeah. I mean, fear is, on different levels, but just on its face, I agree with you. Like that style is dude,
if you listed all the styles of warfare to me, here they are. Pick which one you want to eliminate that you don't have to do. I'm picking that one, dude.
Yeah. This is actually an interesting comment from Yark64. It says Gatling guns were not used much. The fear of them being captured was a factor. Yeah, you don't want them to take it and use it against you.
Right. Those are the old school crank machine guns, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But even introducing the repeater towards the end of the Civil War, whereas everyone else just had, everything else was just muskets really up to that point. That causes a lot more damage and a lot less time.
It's more accurate and could shoot a lot faster, that's for sure.
I just don't know how you get people to agree to do that. Especially during the Civil War when they're using repeaters. How did no one just go, this is dumb? What are we doing?
Yeah.
I would like some cover, please.
Yeah, take cover. It just seems so obvious, right?
But I mean, but if that's the way things are done, I don't know. It's the rule.
Well, it shows you how long it takes for us. We just get so antiquated with stuff, right? Just we're so set in our ways sometimes that even though technology is evolving or something, we just keep doing things the way we've always done them.
Yeah.
They didn't have Mel Gibson to teach them about guerrilla warfare.
That's true. Even though that was the Revolutionary War, but
which was before the Civil War.
Right.
Either way. Yep. Wow. Yeah, no, good episode. That was fun. Terrifying. And anytime we cover these battle stories, there's always a dark episode. Yeah, literally my last episode, we talked a little bit about the Civil War. So you forgot, Dave. You forgot. Now we had the witch trials in there. It was half witch trials, half Civil War camp. We talked a little bit about the Civil War. So we got back-to-back Civil War episodes, even if you immediately forgot about my episode. It's fine. It's fine.
I actually forgot about it again. You mentioned it at the beginning of the episode, and I tried bringing it up, and you're like, "Nah, it's been months." I'm like, I swear to God, this is like last week or the week before. I thought you meant that we did an actual like addition to the Civil War Ghost series thing that we have. Kind of. No. I'm not gonna take your. Actually, I think I have. You did, yeah. I'm not gonna do it twice.
Do we want to get into some reviews?
Yeah, let's hop into it.
So first of all, I'm not going to read all of the comments, but we got a ton of comments on our last paranormal update of everyone loving Dave's New York wise guy accent.
Oh, really? I didn't see any of them. Read all of them, please.
Those are all on Spotify. So thank you for leaving those comments. We got a brand new 5-star review here on Apple from McMellyMel71 titled Exceptional. I came across HTGS in late August while looking for a new podcast and have absolutely enjoyed every episode with the exception of movie reviews. Boo. And now I'm sad I have to wait until the next episode. Keep up the great work. You're missing out if you're not listening to the movie reviews, even if you don't like horror movies. We have a ton of fun on them, and
we're never going to stop. We're not. It's been a while since we got. It's been a while since we got some good old fashioned horror movie review hate. Everyone for the last 100 reviews has been like, "Oh, I love the horror movie reviews." I'm like, maybe I was wrong about that. Yeah. Anyways,
well, we just watched the best movie, so make sure you listen to the Troll 2 review because that's one of the best movies ever made. I would say.
I agree. So does Dave. Let's hop into our patrons real quick as my dog snores behind me. Starting with our VIPs, we have Wyatt Fox. Merry Christmas. Shittiers full. Shitters full. What's a shittiers? Shittiers full too. Shit tears full. Anyways, moving on. Donnie N. I'm back after working a month of Spooky Tuesday. Jennifer A. The blackest night falls from the skies. The darkness grows. All light dies. We crave your hearts and your demise. By my black hand, the dead shall rise.
Another demon summon.
How many demons Jesse has summoned over the past couple of months? Well, I almost had it perfect that time. I had a slight pause. And I think when I do get it perfect, I'll summon demons for everyone. I like to think that this incantation summons like a different demon in a specific village somewhere in the world, and you're just absolutely causing so much havoc. One village at a time. Yep. Just compound demons. They're like, please no.
That reminds me of one of my favorite videos ever online. Do you guys remember the movie years ago where I think Cameron Diaz was in it, and her husband get like this box, and if they press the button like somewhere, they get $1 million, but someone in the world dies somewhere. And someone made a YouTube parody, and they just immediately pressed the button.
Didn't even think about it. There was another one. Was that a Key and Peele skit?
Maybe it might have been.
Okay, there was another Key and Peele skit that I saw recently. That was like a take on Saw, and it was like two victims sitting in a room chained to a wall, and they're just incredibly optimistic the whole time, and it was actually a hilarious skit. Yeah, it was very good. All right, moving on. We have KCW, Brandina 77, Kathy F, Ghost Nurse, JP, Another Vice. I'm Jesse Wilkins. Tess, I am Jesse's microwave, and I'm always watching. Kate and Steve M, Glitter Tease, Cammy from Washington, Kelly C, Rob is definitely an alien, Chris C, LBPS founder, Inspires Gaming, Allison V, Robert H, Janine Raven Lunatic, Mom and Pops W, Father Squash the Elder, Lisa J, and oh my God, they're eating her, and next they're gonna eat me too. Moving on to the Warrens Awards, starting with Dora S. Welcome in. Also Tamara A. A couple new ones there. Nikki, Linda F, Kegsy in Wales, Robin the Witch from Virginia, Crystal V, Big Badinky Bones shanked me in the leg at Panera Bread.
What?
Colleen D, Joe and the Dogs Fray and the Frank agree that Rob is right on Ohio, but wrong on Jaws and Halloween 3. Masshole Medic, Susan C, Degenerate Gambler, Voodoo Ghost, who shouldn't have hit on 19. What was your take on Jaws?
The score sucked.
Oh.
That I'm right.
Oh, yeah, I was with you on that as well. T-Cat, Whisper. Kitten Clown Dozer. Oh, speaking of which, Kitten Clown Dozer had an event going on. It was like a roller derby thing, and it was in my area, and I was like, I'm going to go to that. So I brought the kids, and it was awesome. Just a bunch of crazy ladies beating the bag out of each other. Kids enjoyed it. It was the most fun
ever had watching a sporting event. I was like, I had no idea how the scoring worked, but all I know is I couldn't do that. I couldn't do roller skates and contact sports, but it was pretty cool. So good time. Always good to see Kit and Clown Loser in person. We have Jeremy M. Cheese Pants versus Salami Pockets. Whoever wins, we lose. Beth C. Sarah B. Her Lady Spookship. Victim of Ohio. Colby always remembers. Kath Q. The other Rachel B. Rest in Witch Face. Mar Fire. Lily. Anthony. Y'all. I'm 2 snowstorms into this winter here in New Hampshire, and I'm already sick of plowing snow. God help me, T. That's actually his middle name.
We finally get the reveal on what his real middle name is.
Rob's Belly Button creates sandpaper. Chickamauga, Chattanooga, Chickamauga, Chattanooga. Thank you, Sydney. Ghosts, ghouls, ghost, Ghostbusters, ghost, ghosties, Ghost Rob, Seth on guitar, and Jesse doesn't know people in Tennessee. Oh, Jesse doesn't know how people in Tennessee sound British. No problem. Good update. Maybe sorry. That is the Warrens Wards, and finally we'll hop into the Ghost Pirate Mafia. And let's start that off with the legendary Get Back to Work. The Lunar Joker 07, Lil Cat 02, Damian B, Jet L, Rachel P, Jody L, Chicky Ticky 67, Tez F, FM Cop. Is the Grinch a furry or Sasquatch's cousin?
These are the questions we need to unravel.
Yeah. That's true. Cammy and Steve R. TV. GS Warrior. Mothman gathers ghouls for ghostly shoveling services. Dave bathes in Rob's used hot dog water. That is true. Cold to the Miscellany. GOB. Grim B. D loves ketchup on eggs. Just Ghostly. Witchy Kitty 416. Karen L. Michael M. Amber R. Brant C. Shano Mac. Joe. Kate C. Kelly C. Bloop. Bloop. Cowboys are the worst franchise ever. Some say they have less than a 10% chance of making the playoffs now. But so do the Chiefs. Miss Macabre, Noroku, Rachel G, Cold Warrior, Original Ghost Adventures crew versus U3. Who wins? Ghost hunting supremacy on the line. That depends on what the contest is.
Yeah. That's true.
Mm-hmm. Catching cannonballs, we win.
Yes. Having the most money, we lose.
Yeah, okay, good.
That's
good. I'm thinking of the stuff that was like, I don't know, what if. Anyways, D from H-Town, Meta A, Monster Mom 04, Dave D, Wicked Alley, Dark Snark, Rock Bottom can't be so bad if you're into collecting rocks. That's the most optimistic message ever, Doug. That was great. Arcade Hunters, Wayne C. And maybe you're collecting rocks to see the little ones, you want a couple floaters.
Well, if you're at rock bottom, you can't catch the ones that float because they're up too high. That's a good point. There are stipulations.
Depends how deep the river is, Dave. Just because every river is deep for you doesn't mean that it's deep for all of us.
Crystal Quinn, Halloween 3 is the best, and Rob has bad taste. Thick Boy Freddy's baby mama was definitely yeeted. Alicia E, Thick Boy Freddy got caught by Rafferty's. Please call Ron Meshbesher for me. I'm locked up with the ghost of Al Capone. Help. That was a whole story. Bigfoot stole my lunch from Jesse's microwave. Don't worry, I got it on camera. Sam from Nepal, Joe would definitely be called a witch R, just Al Capone. Huggy Bear, birds do be flapping and tornadoes do be happening. That was great. Anna C, Solar Flare, Mariah M, Kirilee J, Cody G, Hooply Whooply, Soph, and Dr. Donkey Breath. I would not like to go see that doctor. You could join Patreon. Come up with a silly name or just use your real name, whatever you want to do. But ad-free episodes.
Shocked we had no Snodgrass one. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yep. Yeah. You let us down this time, Patreon. That's okay. We love you anyways. You get ad-free episodes, bonus content, discount codes on merch, early access, all sorts of goodies if you join up on Patreon. If you can't do that, leave us a 5-star review. Make sure you hit like and subscribe on this video. And keep an eye out for that episode of Talk is Jericho. Nobody knows when it's going to come out, but sometime soon. And big shout out to Motion Energy Drinks. Good.
But not in the next week, but it will be probably sooner than you think.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. Yeah. I think that'll pretty much do it. Anything else, gentlemen? No. Okay, very good. Real quick, last time, thank you to Another Vice for the gift of memberships, or the $20 in Super Chat. And Whisper for gifting memberships, and happy resub day to Doug, Aussie Boss Tiger, Whisper, and the Real Death C. That'll pretty much do it. We'll see you guys over on Discord, and we'll catch you next time for another live episode of Hometown Ghost Stories.
Peace.